So 8-Bit Christmas is a 2021 Christmas film in nostalgia style, and this one stars Neil Patrick Harris as adult Jake, and very modern, obviously, and taking on the 80s nostalgia tropes that a lot of films do. Basically about Neil Patrick Harris's character, um, basically telling his daughter the story of Christmas in the late '80s and his first Christmas wish, pretty much, in wanting to get a Nintendo, which was the absolute most popular toy and 8-bit entertainment system, as they called it, and basically the biggest thing on the market at the time. And there's a lot of mentions to 80s products and 80s pop culture, obviously, which a lot of things are and a lot of productions are popular in doing so these days. A lot of there's a lot of throwbacks to 90s movies, 80s movies, and stuff like that. This one is very Nintendo focused and very video, not pretty much video game focused, I would say, but especially among the culture of kids, how much they would how much connection kids would have with each other involving video games and stuff like that. And he's telling the story of him as a kid while they're playing Nintendo, and he's saying that everybody in the neighborhood wanted one. There's this kid named Timmy Keene who is like the rich kid of the neighborhood. That's a lot of things that I liked about this film, is that a lot of the kids seemed believable and really reminded me of like actual people that I've known in my life, like at that age and stuff like that. They're very believable and relatable, and they're very like everybody's kind of seen something like everybody's seen somebody like this before, kind of thing. Steve Zahn also plays in this film as young Jake's dad, and the whole film is a flashback of 1987 or something like that. But yeah, Timmy Keene is the rich kid, and this kid is ridiculously spoiled. He's so over the top. I mean, he comes out of his house with a boombox at one point, like a really '80s style boombox, and he plays this like retro like rock song because he just got like the Nintendo Power Glove, and he has this whole swarm of kids in front of him as if he's a celebrity, and he puts the glove up like this. I'm like, that is so ridiculous. A lot of cheesy moments like that, but a lot of mention to '80s products too. Like they mentioned a light bright at one point. I remember the light bright. And what happens is there's this contest that comes up in Jake's school, I'm pretty sure, and it's a wreath selling contest. So they're trying to get the kids to sell wreaths around the neighborhood, and the winner of this contest gets a Nintendo Entertainment System. However, mid contest, because there was an accident involving Timmy Keene and a little accident involving his pet dog, which I won't get into spoilers, but basically the adults of this town, Chicago, so not really a town, a city, the parents of Chicago start to put a ban and a restriction on Nintendo because they believe that the Nintendo is causing these kids all these mental problems and distracting them, and being a danger to them being so young and stuff like that. So really relevant again to how video games were looked at in the '80s, but also to today on how technology is looked at in general, especially with young kids. But they formed this group called Video Game Over, and they're basically their mission is to stop the sales of Nintendo. And Jake's mom and dad, are part of this, and they don't want Jake to get a Nintendo. So Jake is basically struggling to find a way to get this Nintendo because it's his passion. It's the only thing he wants for Christmas. And there's all kinds of funny stuff that happens along the way in this adventure, and it's a good moral story too. It's a family movie, so it's appropriate for all audiences, and the ending, which I'm not going to spoil again, has a very big meaning, and I'll just say that he does get something, which I'm not going to say if he's gotten a Nintendo or not, but he does get something that really makes him value other things than whether it be video games or whether it be it makes him appreciate more things than material objects. There you go. He receives something that makes him value other things than material objects. And it's a really great way to end a story like this. And I'd say the acting is good, and it's really funny throughout. Now, I will say that this film, it's directed by Michael Dowse. So this is the guy that brought you the Fubar films, and he brought you a film called another mockumentary called It's All Gone Pete Tong. So this guy has a different kind of humor, and it's apparent in this movie. It's not like dark humor. It's not black comedy. It's not risque. It's not like that. It's more like, just depending on what kind of audience you are, you may be like put off by it. I wasn't personally, but I mean, there's a lot of elderly jokes, for example, like old people jokes, like crazy in this movie. Almost like to the point where it's like, okay, how many do you need, kind of thing. But just a different kind of humor for a different kind of audience, kind of thing that may put some audiences off, but not like completely offensive or anything like that. Just for different folks, different strokes for different folks, different strokes for different folks, like they say. But yeah, that's what I got on 8-Bit Christmas. It's cool and it's worth a watch if you can stream it somewhere. I streamed it on Roku, and I had a good time with it. Neil Patrick Harris is fantastic. He's in it for a portion of the movie, but mostly it's about the kid's story. So it's about Jake and his friends, and I mean, there's one scene too where a lot of things that happen in this film reminded me of a lot of things that happened to me as a kid, or things that I've seen happen to other kids, friends of mine. And there's a scene where like this kid pukes on the bus, and the teacher's like, "What's wrong? Is it your stomach? You can tell me." And it reminded me of like sometimes being a kid and having a really hard time, or like expressing things to adults, or being nervous around adults or teachers or people of authority and stuff like that. And I've had my times where I've gotten sick on a school bus before, and it's just embarrassing, and the whole situation is embarrassing. There's this other scene where there's this nerdy kid in the film, and he's sitting with his friends, and they're looking at baseball cards, and one of the baseball cards has a swear word on it, and they're trying to get the kid to say it, like another kid to say it, but the nerdy kid is like, "Oh, don't! I can't listen to swear words." Um, Unfortunately, that was me too. I was brought up as a very nerdy kid, a very sheltered kid, and my parents would like always put it in my head that bad words were bad and should be avoided. So I would always be like, I'd have this weird stigma on them. Yeah, just a little brief story on my history, but just things like that that just were really realistic in the way they portray childhood and friendships, and being the cool kid versus being the nerdy kid and stuff like that. But it's a cool film. It's very modern. Just came out 2021, so it's fun. I would say it's fun, and it's worth a stream for sure. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more. Check out the ones that are already on the channel, and I will chat soon. So till next time, take care and cheers.